Broadcasting from Now Media Network's headquarters in Houston, this is Be Productive, hosted by business strategist and productivity expert Clara Capano. Join us to discuss the most critical issues affecting our businesses with a fresh, practical, and objective discussion on the first bilingual media network in the United States. Be Productive starts right now.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Be Productive. This is the show where we talk with industry experts and get real strategies to help you level up in both your business and life. I'm your host, Clara Capano. Today we are talking about systems. Having solid systems allows us to stay consistent. It builds confidence so that we can serve our clients better. But having systems and running systems are two different things. So to help me with this conversation, I have my friend Ryan Conn. So Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So Ryan, you are an expert when it comes to helping companies streamline their processes, develop, and then also stay consistent with running their systems. So I would love to hear from you. The first question I have is a two-part question. First question is, what are some of the key components that our business owners and leaders should be looking at in developing systems? And then the second part is, how do we ensure that we run them properly?
I think there's many key components to making sure that you have a very efficient and effective system, but I would say the number one component is that you stick to your system. You use it. I've gone many places where people have a policy or even a workflow or even just a culture that has a really good system, but when everything gets going, everyone's stuck in the grind, they start to slip and fall away from those systems. And it reminds me of something that we used to say in law enforcement all the time is you never rise to the occasion. You always fall to the level of your training. And outside of law enforcement, the productive measures is you never rise to the level of the skill of your staff. You always fall to the quality of your systems. So if you don't have quality systems, you're going to fall to a level that is a high friction, very frustrating place to be in. Some of the other key components, other than just sticking to your system, is that you have things that effectively are well thought out and track A to Z your processes. There's a balance here, a dichotomy. If you go too micro into the details and try to basically govern every keystroke or every turn of the screw in a factory, you're going to have such compacting and funnel choking points that you will be highly inefficient. But the systems should govern your overall processes, the general workflow, the importance of the steps that have to happen chronologically in order. And it can also encompass things like what to do when something goes wrong, having a couple of those relief valves to say, hey, something didn't go right. What does our system say about how to deal with this? And that relies on strong SOPs, your operating procedures, and again, workflow that has been developed from the ground up and the top down. So that's the other thing that I would do to answer the second half of the question is how to optimize that is bring everyone into the picture. I literally just came back from Utah teaching a company on how to really optimize their systems. And part of it was we brought all of the players on the team that was being changed into the room. So ultimately, whoever slaps the table and makes the final decision is the boss, the manager, the supervisor, the owner. But it's critical to get those pieces of information from the troops on the ground level doing the work, because they may say, hey, we keep doing A, B, and C, but by the time we get to D, there's a breakdown. And us, the troops, I think here's a solution. You can incorporate that into your system. So having that global model where everyone has input from A to Z, you don't want to just do the main thing, like how to put these two pieces together. You need to get it in the door, completed, out the door, with a lot of internal mechanisms to track that process. So track the process, don't get too far into the details, use everyone and include them in the process, and then ultimately stick to the processes and procedures.
Yeah. Ryan, I think you hit on some really key components. The idea that when you're developing systems, it's not just the system, it's also the contingency plan, so that when things pivot, you already have and can be proactive in the pivot. So I think that that's really key for people to understand. It's not just the system from point A to point B, it's what happens when the things deviate so that you can stay on point. And I really appreciate the idea of communication. We are going to have such a higher level of activation and adoption with our systems when we as leaders and owners can communicate them and make sure everybody is on board and understands them. So I think those are some really key components that I hope some of our listeners and viewers took away. You gave an example of being in Utah this last week, but can you think of another company that you worked with to maybe help streamline some of the systems that you've had success with?
Absolutely. We had I actually worked with a team one time, and the team had a bunch of systems in place where they said, hey, we're going to show up. We're going to recruit in this capacity. We're going to train in this capacity. We're going to hand out material and communicate with parents and other people like that. So when I'm trying to bring this team up, this team had really high quality athletes, but really poor execution when it came down to game time, and people would fall apart. So we had to go and deal with mindset. We had to deal with communication. And what we did is we started saying, let's write your system down. And we had all the coaches write what they thought the system was, and the system was pretty different. So when we drew the system into alignment, we said, oh, well, I was doing this and I was doing that because I thought, or it was for this purpose. And a lot of the purposes were off the trail of what the main mission was and what the
Hmm.
ultimate vision for the team was. So they went from being able to have two state qualifying athletes to nine to 13. And so when you're working with those systems, it's exactly like I said in that little first answer, is that you're going to fall to the level of your systems. Highly skilled athletes with poor communication and poor systems don't get trained and accomplish what they need to accomplish, and the team doesn't get elevated. So that's a pretty good example. Now they have a written system. So now
Hmm.
everybody comes in the door and they know that, okay, I need to learn the basics here. I need to master the basics here. I need to learning avenues that expand upon the basics. Then I need to go back and check on the basics. Then I need to add more, check on the basics, add more. And there's a system that you can check off that once an athlete has accomplished this core competency, they can move to the next level, accomplish that core competency, move to the next level. So the documentation and the alignment on the mission and the alignment on the vision is what saved that team.
Love that. That word alignment is so critical in everything we do. And what a great example of how you got them back into alignment. And that's really was the catalyst to going forward. So I really appreciate that. I want to now talk about the marriage of technology because technology is amazing and it can also be a detriment in a lot of growth. I always believe that we should be using technology to enhance everything that we're doing, not necessarily replace it. So, as a leader, as a business owner, talk to us a little bit about how we can best leverage technology without losing maybe the human component of what we're doing.
And what you just said, losing the human component is probably the most significant detriment that technology could bring.
Hmm.
I push really hardcore for everybody to start adopting AI technology, get things like CRMs, get nurturing campaigns so that you can not have to do the busy work of whatever it is in your industry. A lot of that is administrative. So your administrators, instead of typing and following up all day, can just monitor and track projects that technology can do. And what happens is when somebody needs a human needs to be available. I think technology is great for you to install a little AI bot so somebody can go to your website and ask for advice. And that's great because that's saving you from answering all those really low hanging fruit, quick questions and just being on the phone or being in the email every day. But when somebody has a bigger problem, they can say, "Hey, I've talked to the bot. I've watched the video. Something's not working. You must have a human available to resolve that." No matter what industry you're in, it all ultimately boils down to a relationship. What
Yes.
relationship do I have? Even with the retailer, when I go buy a pair of blue jeans, even with the car dealership, I have a relationship with the manufacturer because guess what? When that recall comes out, am I going to trust this vehicle in the future in your brand based on how you handle the recall? If you're in professional services like this, relationship is huge. Nobody ultimately wants to talk to a robot or a computer. They want to talk to a person. We're in a stage of society now where we are fine getting our quick fixes and our quick answers from video libraries and answers, but there still has to be touches and human components, all of that. So leverage technology as much as is appropriate, but never take away the final human component. That's my big warning and soapbox.
Fantastic. Ryan, you hit on four really big things that I really hope that our viewers lean into. You talked about consistency. You talked about alignment and vision. Talking about relationships in everything that we're doing. And all of those things together just That's sort of the secret sauce of building success is we need all of those in everything that we're doing. And you can tell that you are a true expert in what you do, and you can tell that you have so much passion for what you do. So if someone is watching this and wants to learn more about how they can work with you, or maybe just even learn more about some of the things that you are doing, where can people find you?
Uh, Thank you for that. There is a lot of passion behind it. CS Business Consulting is a company that helps people in multiple levels. And so, if you want to get a hold of us, probably the website would be the best, fastest way. It's csbizcon.com, and that's BIZ. So, CSBIZCON.com. And then, if you call just our main phone number, 270-442-6688, it actually goes to both companies, Shelton Associates CPA for the tax planning and CS Business Consulting for all the leadership training, productivity, efficiencies, and things like that. So we'd love to hear from anybody out there. We are passionate about making people better and, of course, making ourselves better along the way.
Oh, fantastic. So, Ryan, thank you so much. And for all of you that are watching, really lean into some of these things that Ryan shared with us. He is a key strategist in these areas. So, really understanding the power of raising your standards and leveling up to those standards. And we can only do that when we have a clear vision, when we are in alignment and communicate with our team, and when we build those solid relationships. That's how we can show up and maintain consistency. So thanks for sticking with us. I'm Clara Capano, and we'll be right back for more Be Productive.